In this last number of videos, we've been looking at today's situations for managers. We looked at globalization, we looked at ethical responsibility, we looked at social responsibility, and so now let's look at the issue of sustainability. So sustainability is defined by meeting the organization's needs currently while not compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. So if we look at the history of sustainability, originally there was a focus simply on meeting the laws and regulations and contracts. Do we have reputable business practices? Do we abide by the laws? And then as we move throughout history of management, we looked at, and this course followed this path, we looked at our employees and their performance. Are they motivated? And so here, if we're looking at sustainability, we're looking at retaining our workers. So are we able to keep our workers? And so that's focusing on their health and their safety. That's focusing on their work-life balance. Are we able to keep our workforce? And then we started to focus on the external environment. We looked at customer expectations. And of course, the customer's expectations define the quality of our products and our services. So improving our quality made us more sustainable as an organization. And then we start to see pressure in terms of our impact and contribution to the environment. So we look at environmental protection. We talked previously about the closed loop supply chain. So we're diverting products from going into the landfill by moving them back through the supply chain to either use the components to make something else or to take broken product and fix it and resell it. So we are diverting waste from the landfills. And then in the previous videos, we've been looking at that ethical and social responsibility, and are we contributing to the community's needs? So we're then moving to today to talk about that last piece, and we combine all those as we look at sustainability. Are we able to maintain our operations and meet the needs of our customers, our stakeholders, so employees, investors, and are we able to meet the needs of the community both today and in the future? So what are we doing as we consider the needs of future generations? So as you assess the sustainability of your organization, you can look at the components of sustainability here. So we can focus on our zero waste. We can make our production process leaner so that we don't have a lot of waste. We can have a closed loop supply chain so that we are not throwing away product after its end of use or end of life. We can look at our materials. Are we using sustainable materials? If we need, like we talked about the iPhone, if we need to use materials that are harder and more scarce to find, like those rare earth minerals, can we pull them from our old products and reuse them? Or can we switch to materials that are more sustainable? So more naturally recurring on their own, not less and less over time. So we can look at inputs, like the materials. We can look at the outputs, like the waste. And we can look at who is impacted by our core processes. So we can look at, are we contributing to solving local problems, creating jobs? We are reducing the pollution in our community, making it a greener and safer space. We can look at our influence on our industry. So how are we helping the rest of our supply chain be more efficient, to have less waste, to use more sustainable materials? So how well are we influencing both the industry and the community? So we look at sustainability, again, inputs, materials. We can also look at energy that we're using. Those go into our processes. Then how do our processes, and how can we expand our processes to, once we have made better and more efficient ways in our processes, how can we take that out to the community and to the industry? And then finally, as we look at our outputs, we talked about waste, but also we look at our products and services. Are they valuable? Are they something that contributes to the community? And are they ones that don't do harm? So if we look at, for example, let's say that we produce strawberries, we could find lower energy methods for growing our crop. We could find more sustainable materials to use in our production process. So can we find, in terms of fertilizer, that's less chemical based, it's more naturally occurring? And then as we set up our process for harvesting our strawberries, is it efficient? Does it have less toxic, less negative effect on the environment? Can we encourage the other members of our supply chain who take our strawberries to distributors, then out to the grocery stores, to also find efficient methods and more environmental processes? Can we give back to the communities that we're involved in? So maybe we're going to take strawberries and donate them to the food bank. And then we look at the waste that's created. So when we have to throw away a product that has gone bad, can it be mulched? Can it be used in terms of creating fertilizer or food for animals? And then the product itself, we have the strawberries in the container. And is the container we're using, is it recyclable? Is it something that is biodegradable, so that the product that we sell the strawberries in doesn't create harm to the environment as well? So we're looking at all these different aspects to determine if our organization is sustainable. And as part of that sustainability, we call back to that closed loop supply chain, both because sustainability is influencing those other members of our supply chain, but also because we want to make sure our product doesn't do harm to the environment, to the community, and that we reduce waste. So we are looking for more efficient, less polluting methods in terms of our forward logistics as we make the product and move it towards the customer. But we also want to reduce what we're putting into the landfill, reducing our use of resources that are not self-sustaining, that, so if we look at things that we have to strip mine for materials, or if we have to use oil that's not going to return on its own, so it becomes more costly and harder to obtain, can we move away from that in our process? And so can we use our reverse logistics, that other half of the closed loop supply chain, in order to prevent us from adding more harm to the community? And so we've looked at this image before. So we look at, for example, if we're returning product, that customer goes back to the retailer, then the retailer or company they hire can evaluate the return and determine if the broken product can be fixed and resold, if parts of the product can be put into another item, so it can be recycled or remanufactured, or perhaps it can be more properly disposed of than having the customer do that. So all of these can help in terms of the sustainability of our organization. I'll put a link here in the video, but I encourage you to go and check out this advertisement. So this advertisement, I can't embed it because it's not a YouTube video. It's from Facebook, but I'll put a link here. And this takes you to a commercial that Pepsi and Coca-Cola have been putting out along with Dr. Pepper. And they're actually all working together to help get people to return the plastic bottles that you have from water bottles, from Coke, from Pepsi, so that they can reuse them, recycle them, return them into the closed loop supply chain. So you actually have competitors working together to help reduce the impact on the landfill and the community. And then the other video I want you to check out, I'll put a link here, is, and I can't embed it because it's in Vimeo here, but this is from a conference called Sustainable Brands. And this one is an interview with someone who works for Apple, talking about how Apple has a closed loop supply chain. So I encourage you to check it out to see how companies are pushing to become more and more sustainable.